Welcome back to the Brain Freeze podcast. It's been a wild ride over the last little bit, and I'm excited for this episode. We have a friend of mine who's near and dear to my heart. Jesse is a part of CO1, and he's also the owner of Executive Branding Company. He's basically been growing that for the last, 3-4 years?
3. Mm-hmm.
3 years, and absolutely crushing it. He's a husband, father, and there's going to be so much knowledge that he has to pour. His office is just around the corner from mine, and just being in that proximity has helped me elevate what we're doing in CO1, and so I'm excited for everyone listening that we get to be elevated today. So Jesse, welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate
it. So Jesse, tell us a little bit more about you and who you are, what you're doing, and what you're focused on right now.
So I got a wife, 2 kids, got a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. We've got Revive Executive Branding that we started. My wife and I actually started it together. And then once we had our first kid, we found out she was pregnant right before we quit my job, or the day after I quit my job before we started this one. So a few months in, we decided we needed to kind of divide and conquer. So Malia's full-time mom. She does social media stuff now. And then I do Revive full-time. So, and our focus right now is just bringing value to our clients and to our family as much as we can, so that we're intentional with what we do, when we do it, how we do it, so that we enjoy going through good times and bad times.
Let's go. So what's executive branding? Help me understand what that is.
Yeah, so pretty much what we do is we take care of resumes, LinkedIn's, executive biographies, anything with the online and offline presence of executives. So it's like director, vice president, C-level executives, whether it's for Fortune 500 companies or for, small startups.
And so what makes an executive want to work with you?
Usually they don't have time to do it, and they don't know the value they bring. Most executives that come to us, they've tapped into their network. They're like 45 to 55. They've used their network to get all the jobs that they were looking for. And now the market's just more intense. And so they come to us to show and bring their value so that people can understand it in less than 6 seconds. And then we have connections too. We actually have a podcast called Behind the Hire, where I interview executive recruiters. So not only do they get the branding, but they get the networking piece as well.
And then what specifically do you help them achieve? So let's say someone signs up for you. What does an executive get?
Most executives that work with us land a role in a lot faster time. So let's say it's a VP level executive, VP of marketing going into a CMO role. The average in the market's a 6 to 9 month rate right now to land a new role, and our clients land roles in about 2.5 months. We take care of the branding, make sure that people can see them, give them the tools, know how to reach out to recruiters. Then we make the connections, and then they just land roles faster.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Dude, what a unique path. So how did you get into this? What made you feel like executive branding was the path? I mean, that's a very niche thing that you're doing.
Yeah. Most of the time when I explain it, people get really confused. Like, executive branding. So usually I'm just like, yeah, we're a resume company. But I used to sell for a company. I know you used to do sales too. I sold for a company that did this. I'd never heard about it before. I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ. And I got back, and this guy from New Jersey was like, hey, you served a mission. I know missionaries. I want to hire you in sales. And I had no sales background. It was an awesome experience, but I found out on the back end that there were some things going on that weren't what I was selling. So I was told to sell one thing, and once I got more integrated, I was there for about 3 years. And once I got more integrated, I realized what I was promising people wasn't being delivered. And my dad was in sales. And my dad always told me, if you're going to sell something that you value, something that you would back up, that you would buy, that you would want other people, your family to have. And I got to a point where I had clients come to me telling me that what I was selling wasn't what they were getting. And I didn't know that. And so I went to my wife, Malia, and I was like, we can't sell this anymore. We were honestly doing great. Financially, it was awesome. I was a pre-med student at the time. He was helping me. The founder was a really awesome guy. He was helping me get saved up for med school. And my wife and I went to Mexico 3 times that year just for fun.
That's awesome.
And it was a great life, but then I couldn't back up the value behind it. But I knew that there was something there, and I didn't have a non-compete. So we made sure we quit the company, and then we started up Revive once everything was disconnected from the previous company, and just started our own. And we've been going ever since then.
That's interesting. So how did you know the line of where it started to become something that you couldn't align with? And how did you know your values along that path and said, hey, this doesn't belong anymore? Because I think as an entrepreneur, it's easy to get lost in the sauce where if things are working out, if you're having success and people are signing up with you, it's like, well, they chose to sign up with me. And a lot of times that's easy to get caught in that path of just feeling like we're providing value just because we're getting paid.
Yeah.
And that's not always the same.
Yeah. Honestly, probably the thing it comes back to, I've talked about this on like a couple other podcasts I've been on, but the year that I quit was the year, that my dad died. And what he had told me just kept ringing in my head because, obviously I wasn't oblivious, throughout the whole process. I was kind of like getting rumors here and there of maybe things that were going on behind the scenes with the company, and maybe they were offshoring, maybe they weren't, maybe they were advertising this, but doing that. Right. But I never really knew. And then one day I just blatantly asked somebody, and I figured it out. And then my dad had passed away, and leading up to that point, nothing felt right after my dad had passed away. It was unexpected, but med school didn't feel right anymore. And then what I was selling, the piece of advice he gave me before I started selling, I wasn't doing it, And so as soon as I figured that out, my wife and I just had to have a lot of conversations. And it wasn't like overnight I quit. I had to make sure that I knew what I was doing. But the way that I felt, I guess I got clarity with it, is I really respected my dad. And I respected the life that he built, even though he had 57 years on the planet, and it wasn't long enough. He knew what he was doing.
What was the advice he gave you?
Sell what you believe in. Sell something that you truly value. And he also gave me advice not to start a company and not to go into sales. Right? But I picked the one that I liked the most, and that was, it just stuck with me, and it gave me the clarity, and it gives me clarity now. Cause you're right. If I have a client ever come to me and they didn't get what they were promised, I take it personally, because I want my son, Steve, who's named after my dad, I don't want him to look back and be like, my dad took advantage of people for a quick pay. I don't want him to be behind the scenes and know what's happening and have it not be what he sees online, me promising people. So I'm just very particular about that. If somebody comes to me and they didn't get what they promised, it's usually because I didn't communicate it right. And then there's things to learn, and I'm not perfect and our company's not perfect, but I think we got a pretty good success rate with being transparent with people.
And just that, it's amazing to recognize the examples in your life that have built, that you're able to build on. Something that I think about all the time is standing on the shoulders of giants. There's people and mentors in my life that have come before me that have paved a path that I now get to stand on top of. And I get to build on top of that path, or I could destroy it. And I think about that every day. Conor McGregor said it best: your lack of discipline is a slap in the face to those who believe in you. And I think about that with those who have come before us as well, because there's people that have poured into me, even out of just the goodness of their heart, and there's nothing to gain. And now I have the opportunity to stand on those shoulders and to build and create something extraordinary. And I think that is a responsibility that we have as entrepreneurs, as business owners, to be able to bring the greater good to the world.
Can I add something? One thing I've noticed, not everything in my life is based on my dad passing away, but it's just something that, because we're talking about it, I've had multiple times where people have helped me in my life because they knew my dad. And I knew them. I knew these people. I grew up in their neighborhoods. I was a kid, but they knew me. But they came to me saying, I'm doing this because your dad went in the trenches with me when I was suffering. He was there. He was talking to me when I was, going to get a divorce, or he was, my sewer broke and I went and he was out fishing out sewer on Christmas Eve, and I have gained so much from people trying to give back to my dad through me. And I had that epiphany last night. We got a family friend that's giving me a huge discount on a water softener because we just bought a house and we did not budget a water softener. We didn't know we needed one, right? Stupid things. But it made me tear up yesterday when he's like, I loved your dad. And he's like, I would do anything. And he's like, let me give back. He's like, I want to. And so to me, like standing on the shoulders of giants, that's how I feel like with my dad and like so many people that I learned from. People at CO1, like I'll give a shout out to Alex, and you and Cam. I'm learning so much, and I'm avoiding mistakes that I think a lot of other people at a 3-year-old business would be making because I'm getting to learn and understand what other people did wrong.
Yeah.
and I'm avoiding and I'm standing on people's shoulders. And it's not like they're like just letting me sit there. Like it's most people in CO1 and just in my life right now are pushing me so that I can get higher.
Well, it's not a crutch, right? And I think some people, especially men, we look at it as a crutch. Like, oh, I have to be a hurt puppy in order to get help. And it's like, that's not true at all. The best of the best are constantly seeking out the best environments to learn from the best people. And they will travel any distance and pay any money in order to be in those rooms because they recognize that the value is there. And the value is not in the knowledge itself. It's in the implementation. Knowledge is widely available. You could learn just about anything, anywhere, from AI, from online. But what you pay for and what's the unique mechanism that separates the people who get it done and the ones who don't is the implementation. And the ones who recognize the difference, they pay for speed. And they recognize that. And I think that's amazing. And so with that relationship towards your dad and on the shoulders of giants, how has that affected you as a father?
Just makes me want to be intentional. Oh, there's a lot of different ways that the relationship with my dad and relationships that I see that I value or I've learned from, and I've learned what to do and what not to do. But a big thing that I've learned from my dad is just being there, being there for my son. And it doesn't mean I'm there 24/7. That's one thing I honestly had to learn. Because looking back at my life, my dad was at every game. He would rebound for me for basketball every day. But it wasn't like he was skipping work. I mean, he worked a full-time job. He was in sales and he was working a ton, but it was the 2 hours he'd take in the night or the hour he'd take in the morning, and he was there, he was present. I never had a dad that was sitting on his phone doing nothing. If he was sitting on a TV, it was with me, and we were watching something together, we were doing something together. And I think a big thing that my dad gave me was he never let me settle.
Yeah.
I would be sitting and playing video games as a teenager, and he'd be like, "Don't you have a contract you signed to make it to the NBA?" Newsflash, I did not make it to the NBA, but I had a contract from Jimmer Fredette where he told everybody to sign it, right, and put it on your wall. And I'd be sitting there and he'd be like, "I think you've got ball handling drills you should be doing, right? Are you going to look back and regret it?" And then I would go out and I would just work my butt off. And so he never let me settle. He never let me quit. And that's what I want to give Steve. Honestly, I want to give him a place where he knows that I think he could achieve anything. And like what you talk about, right? We learn our limitations. I want to make sure that Steve doesn't learn limitations from me, but he learns that he's limitless.
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring that up. Because to me, like as a father, it's so easy and nonchalant to think that, oh, he was just there.
Yeah.
People don't understand the amount of preparation it takes to be there, to be present, and to have that energy. Like most dads wouldn't want to have that, you could say argument with your kid to tell him to get outside and go do the ball drills and call them to growth, because that then makes his life harder, makes your life, it can cause actually friction. But friction is the price you pay for growth. And that's the part that gets overlooked. And as a father, part of the reason of what we preach in CO1, and something that I believe just deep in my bones, the only reason any of it matters as far as working out, reading books, like doing hard things. People say, oh, I do hard for hard's sake. And to me, that sounds like nonsense. I'm not doing a hard thing for a hard time's sake. And this is coming from a guy who runs ultra marathons.
Right.
All those moments are preparation for the moments like that. When I'm at home with my wife and let's say I'm having a bad day and I'm tired, can I still show up? In my business, when things are financially hard, can I mentally work my way through it to stay in it, even when there's no result? Even when nothing is coming my way or working for me, can I still maintain the vision and the energy every single day showing up, knowing that eventually, as long as I stay in the game, that things will work out. I will get there eventually, and I'm not going to quit 3 feet from gold, right? Like one thing I've thought about a lot lately is winners fail way more than failures do, because the only way you can fail is if you quit. Winners just stay in the game long enough for things to work out. And I think that's the difference, is the amount of preparation that goes into that moment where your dad could show up for you is exponential. And the amount of depth that he was able to go with it, right? Like part of the reason I love ultra marathons is because I know I can be there for people when a lot of people can't be there for themselves because they haven't gone to that depth of themselves yet. And I know I can because I've been there deliberately and on purpose, and I've learned my lesson, and I can bring that back. And so when Summit's having a bad day, I can sit with him no matter how annoyed or frustrated I am with his behavior. Like I think of when he's throwing a tantrum, if I get emotional about that and I start arguing with a 2-year-old, which a lot of parents, it's easy to do.
It's a pretty slippery. It's easy.
It becomes so unproductive. And honestly, all it creates is damage. And in your head, you're like, I'm teaching them a lesson. But if you're unaware of that entire process, you're also unaware of what they're subconsciously learning in that moment, right? You can't learn this on your own. You need me, because that's what emotion starts to do is I want to feel felt and I want to feel understood. So I'm going to get louder until you recognize that. Rather than just detaching from the emotion and recognizing this behavior is unproductive. I'm going to sit with him through it, but I'm also going to teach him, right? And I can be there. And so when he calms down, it can be, hey, look, this doesn't mean you're a bad kid. Your behavior was just unproductive. Let's get to a place where we can learn and grow together. And even a 2-year-old can understand that. Like I sit my 2-year-old down after his temper tantrums, after he's, had his whole scene. I can sit down and have that productive conversation because of the preparation that's happened before. And so when you say that, like it's so often that it gets overlooked that that's just what was happening. And maybe your dad didn't even recognize that that's what he was preparing for. But everything that went into those moments is now what's shifting you into becoming a man and being there for your son. And I think that's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think people put a level of difficulty to it that it's not actually that difficult. You know what I mean? Like it's almost more difficult to think about doing the thing than it is actually doing it.
100%.
Right? And it's like when you get home and you're like, honestly, you'll probably get more energy from going outside and playing with your kid than you would if you just go sit down and take a nap. I feel terrible after I go sit down and take a nap. We had family in town watching our kids last weekend. Took a nap and I was like, wow, I haven't taken a nap in a while and I feel awful. Like I'm struggling to wake up, And I think what my dad did, whether it was intentionally or not, he just knew if he was there, it would, I think he knew it would kick him into gear. He wasn't, I'm sure he would have rather have been, with sales, like you could be thinking about your clients 24/7. Like it's very hard to detach. But if you just step into the ring, it's usually a lot easier to forget or to let go, like set your phone down, things. And I'm kind of a hypocrite. I'm back and forth on it, right? But the nights that I actually just go outside with my son and let him play in some dirt, he literally yesterday we were outside talking to some friends, some neighbors, and I turned around and my son was laying face down in a pile of dirt. And he was so happy, right? But it was just being there and experiencing it. And then the next day he talks about it.
Yep.
And that's where I think it's going to stack. And like stacking evidence, stacking of my dad's here.
Yeah.
He
and
knows
it just
I work,
resets.
Yeah. So I don't know.
No, it's great. And it's a reset, right? Every single time that I've been present, I've never regretted it. I never felt like I didn't take care of my business afterward. I've never felt like it wasn't worth the time. I've sometimes felt that way with vacations if it's a long period of time, but like in the night, every single time I become more creative. I become better. And what a lot of entrepreneurs overlook, specifically high performers in general, is we often think that one is competing with the other. Like family competes with business. Business competes with health. Health competes with sleep. And we create this belief system that I can't have my cake and eat it too. I have to always compromise something. I have to sacrifice in order to get what I want. But what happens when you create a positive relationship with all those different dynamics of being present at home, obsessed over your business, and a savage in your health, you start to recognize that those restrictions that you're finding that are competing with one another breed creativity. And when you start to recognize that, it starts to breed how you can create and build your life the way you want it to, rather than just simply reacting to it. And that's where the magic starts to happen, because when you're building a business, you're a creator. And that creation and the restrictions that you're feeling from your family can amplify the results in the business. And same thing with your health. When you overcome something in your health, it naturally is reflected in your business like no tomorrow. And same thing with your sleep. Your sleep's the one thing that often gets compromised, but it's the glue.
Yeah. I would also say it's like when I think about the way that I grew up, just thinking about, okay, if I lose sleep or if I go work out in the morning, I'm gonna be tired all day long. But if I change the relationship with it and I'm like, every single time I work out, I actually do better in my sales, even though I'm a little more tired. Or maybe I'm not tired and I'm actually feeling a lot better. But I think most of the time we think we need a break. I kind of think the way that the world is going is there's kind of a trend going against this right now, at least on my social media. But I think the world kind of creates it where I need a break from everything. I need to detach from everything. I need to like sit down, focus on me, relax, all this stuff. And I think there's a time and a place for it. But I think most of the time when I just simply disconnect from one thing and go to another, it gives me the energy, which then turns back into it. So like walking away from my business for a second and then going to my family, and then that gives me energy, and then I can put that back into the business and back into the family, back into my health, instead of just saying, hey, I need to pull away from everything and make my wife do everything for a whole night. I mean, there's a time and place for it, but I think people there's a really common misconception that you have to step away from everything in order to gain that energy back. But I watched a reel where this guy was like, you can't grow something unless you use it. So if I've got a little bit of energy and I use it, it's going to grow. I'm going to get more.
I love that.
If I get up in the morning, I'm going to get more energy. I'm not going to run out, and I honestly see that. I use the little bit I have, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to go play with Steve outside, but I'll just go outside. And then 2 seconds later, I'm sprinting around with him. We're riding bikes or doing something else, and he's having a blast.
I love that. I mean, energy is an investment. The more you give, the more you get back. The people who I know have the most energy are the ones who also spend the most. And it's insane. And I think that's a superpower right there. So talk to me about the dynamic with your wife, because that combination is unique. Somebody who really can manage their health, exercise, build a business, and have kids. It creates a unique individual, because it does feel like there are restrictions. Like if you're from the outside looking in, it's like there are restrictions, but those restrictions breed creativity and make you into a unique individual in this world that brings a lot of value. So talk to me about the dynamic with Malia. Malia's a baller, by the way.
Malia's amazing. I wouldn't be here without Malia. Like I wouldn't have made it through anything. Like my dad passing, I get choked up when I talk about Malia because she's the best thing that's ever happened in my life. She grew up with an entrepreneur dad. So she just knows. She knows how it is. And I've never had a time where I thought she didn't believe in me. I think she could run our company better than I could. I've told her that multiple times. She does social media influencing, and somehow she has the time to, do that, raise Steve, have a newborn, do all this stuff, go work out. She's working out with Kelsey right now, right, for their high rocks that they're training for. And I'm just amazed at what she can handle and how she can do that and also support me when I've got my struggles and my worries about the business. So I think the dynamic is I really feel like she's a teammate. Malia and I didn't just marry each other because it was obviously like I knew she was beautiful, right? That's a no-brainer. But we didn't marry each other because it was just easy or something to do. We did it because we knew that we could conquer the world together. And when I was trying to find my wife, again, a lot of the things I learned in life and a lot of the truths that I have are from the little teachings I got from my dad. And I feel like he just like packed it in the 23 years that I had him, rather than getting it over 80. But he sat me down and he's like, find somebody that you can conquer the world together. And I think the cool thing about having a marriage when I have a goal and she's willing to do whatever it takes so I can achieve it and vice versa, it doesn't feel like a give and take, and it's not a 50-50 split. She can go and be gone 3 nights in a row because she's got goals and I'm going to support her. And I could be gone for an event. We got CO1 events that are in the night sometimes, whatever it is. But it's not oh man, Malia's gone. Okay, when she gets back, I'm going to go take my time. It's like we're stoked to talk to each other. We're stoked to talk to each other about the business. And I'm trying to get into speaking engagements. And we spent like up till like 12:30 in the morning one night. She's like, tell me about it. Tell me about what you want to do. And then I told her and I was like, well, I'm already doubting it. And she's like, that's stupid. Why are you doubting it? So anyways, I could talk about Malia for a long time. But the dynamic to me is really that we're a team.
So how did you get her buy into the vision? Because I think that's something that a lot of men in particular struggle with, because like you're saying, it often feels like they are competing forces, right? Like every time you're not home, then you're taking Jesse time, whether it's your work or your health, right? And that's taking time away from the family. And when you get home, like you have the kids, right? And it's just this, I feel like a lot of families, it's easy to get in that mode of competition with one another, and everything that happens is one is taken away from the other. How did you get her buy-in to have that depth and into the vision? I'm curious.
I learned a lot from you, right? We've gone through stuff in sessions and stuff. But really, I think it's being confident in what I'm doing, being passionate about what I'm doing is getting her to buy into it. And I think there's a really, honestly, like you go back to like some of the oldest TV shows out there. It's like the dad gets home from work. He's exhausted. He hated work. He hated what he did, right? The mom is exhausted from taking care of the kids the whole time, things like that. And I think the idea is when you get home, are you stoked about what you did, or did it feel like a waste of time? And how are you telling your wife, oh, today sucks? So that obviously it's kind of nice. Sometimes you say it sucked and your wife comforts you and, things like that. But if you come home every single time, they're going to wonder, is this worth it? And so I think with Malia, it's kind of coming home, both of us being like yesterday I got home and she was like, today was freaking awesome. We went and worked out. She went and worked out with Kelsey. Then she went to the dinosaur museum with Steve. And then I got home, I was like, you'd never guess. Like we got another sale. We got a new client coming on, all this stuff. And it builds energy and it builds confidence in each other rather than me coming home being like, oh, I got a sale today, but what a bummer of a day. I'm so exhausted, right? Because if I was the spouse, I'd be like, well, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Dude,
Is that kind of...
It's so good. So have you ever heard of the ostrich effect?
You've maybe told me about it, but you can remind me.
So the ostrich effect is basically when bad things are happening, people like to hide. Okay? Like an ostrich, if a lion is coming after them, they're going to put their head in the ground and hope the lion doesn't eat them. They saw this on the Titanic. When the Titanic was sinking, many people didn't want to believe that the ship was going to go down. And so they just continued on with their normal. Like the most people who died were in the dining room eating dinner.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Because they didn't want to acknowledge that the ship was going to sink. And, funny enough, do you know the least likely time that someone's going to check their bank account is? It's not when you have financial abundance. It's when people don't have any money because they don't want to see the numbers. People want to avoid it. And I think what you're referring to is a lot of times as entrepreneurs, the ostrich effect starts to kick in. Is like we either want to hide behind a wall and not let them in to our vulnerabilities, but we also are we want the comfort because as men, like you're out there, you're fighting battles. Nobody cares about you in your business, right? Unless you're providing them a value, they're not going to give you $1.
Right.
And so you're kind of outside the home fighting this battle, and then you get to come back, and all of a sudden there's some comfort there, but also you realize like that's their safety. Like I think I say this to Kelsey all the time. I think the strongest women in the world are the ones where a man can get vulnerable and talk about his problems and not have it affect their safety. That they can still remain strong. And you can see that in Malia and in your story. And I think that's such an amazing part and dynamic of it. But the other part is where you're focused on what is happening, right? You can talk to him as if like, okay, the ship hit the iceberg. Things are hard. But there's also this vision here that I am confident in, that I am going to get us on the other side. We're going to be in a lifeboat, and I'm going to protect this family. And it gives them something stable that they can rely on. It gives them a strength. And when they feel that, when they can feel that energy, that momentum, I think that's where the dynamic is like, no, you go. You got this. You can do it. Yeah,
I think there's a kind of like making sure that I didn't say it wrong as well, because I agree it's not being vulnerable. That's not the thing here. It's not coming home and being confident and be like, oh yeah, we're going to do it no matter what. Because I have a lot of hard conversations with Malia.
You could hear that in your whole story.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I mean, it's really the idea of when you're on the same page and she has the vision, you both know exactly what you're building to, you're going to give it everything you can. And then you can have that conversation of, hey, we had something not too long ago where our advertising platform, our typical channel to bring in revenue got wiped, right? And so I'd have a conversation with her. I was like, hey, this next little bit, I'm going to be working a lot more. Like we need to do it. And she knew I was waking up early. I was getting to the office earlier. I was getting home later. But we both were bought into the vision. We knew it was just going to be a time and a season for a second, but it didn't mean that I wasn't going to be with our kids. And it didn't mean that we weren't going to be doing what we normally do, but it was just, she knew I was going through it. And she was giving me some confidence because we knew what we're going for at the end.
Yeah, I remember there was a time in mine and Kelsey's story, and I had just sunk the ship of CO1, neuromastery at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going on a drive, and I'm like, Kels, we don't have any money, and none is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine hearing that as a wife. We had just had a kid who needed formula, who needed food. I was training for this 100-mile race. Like, I was losing weight like no tomorrow because I couldn't eat enough to maintain it. I was down probably 15 pounds, and I'm already little.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an issue. And she looks at me and she says, well, what do we do? And we had a long conversation, but by the end of the night, she was going to go build an entire job around videography. We put $4,000 on a credit card to buy her all the gear to go out. And I kid you not, she probably DM'd over 100 videographers in the next week. Got 3 or 4 of them to sit down with her and actually teach her how to do the camera because she had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
Learned how to do it, started booking weddings, and started getting us, $2,000 to $3,000, started getting these random jobs with businesses, all these things. And she literally floated us for probably another year of the business while I was just pushing to figure this thing out. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't necessarily because that's where she wanted to be. I mean, she loves videography, but she just wanted to build her own home videos.
Yeah.
But then she was able to build this skill set that literally floated us. I mean, she ended up getting hired by Mountain Knobs and doubling our income. And over the year, 10x'd that investment.
Yeah. Little plug for Kelsey. She did our birth video, and it's awesome.
Dude,
she does amazing work. She really does. Holding my daughter for the first time and having video of that, you can't beat that.
It's just crazy, so cool. Dude. And I love talking about the wives because there's such a family dynamic into the entrepreneurship that builds the entire thing. Because at the end of the day, it's like so many men will kill themselves trying to build a temple that nobody wants to live in. They'll sacrifice all of their family, all of their health, all to build a business that nobody cares about.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're included in the vision, you'll recognize your wife would walk on pins and needles in order for things to work out because they understand that that's building you, it's building them, and there's a clear vision of everything that's going to pay off. And it actually builds the temple that you get to enjoy. Obviously, everybody wants the amazing house, but what's a big house if nobody enjoys being there? The quality of your life is based on the quality of your experiences. And if your experience inside that house sucks, then there's no point for the house. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that buy-in, I love picking your brain because it's such a unique dynamic that starts to unfold.
Yeah. I think kind of related to it, it's interesting to think because with entrepreneurs, it's a different dynamic for a lot of people that are around you watching the marriage too, because a lot of people are used to, if you're in sales or you're in a job, you travel a little bit, right? It's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. If you want to get paid, you got to do what your boss says. Right? People are used to it, yeah. and they spend a lot of time away from the family, right? But when you're an entrepreneur, it's everything's your decision, right? And it's a good thing. Honestly, it's awesome because a lot of people look at it, I think, and they misunderstand. If an entrepreneur dad is gone at night or he's gone in the morning, he's not with his kids, it's because he decided to do it, right? But if you got somebody that's working in a corporate America and they're traveling 200 days a year, it's, hey, that's just part of the job. It's just part of it. And the family doesn't have to think about it. But when you got a family that's intentional and they know why. Yeah. They know why we're making the decisions. They know why we're spending the time. And they know that there's something that's coming from it, right? Yeah. And they know that it's building everybody in the family. And then it doesn't mean that you get less time with your family, but it just means you're picking and choosing exactly when. And then I could go tomorrow and take the day off and I could spend it with my family, or I could be at the business, but Steve's going to understand it. And honestly, he's just stoked in the vision. He's like, Dad, you going to work today? He's stoked about it. And it sucks to say goodbye, but it's pretty awesome to know that he'll be able to look back and see something. I hope that he'll be able to look at and be like, my dad did, I could do it. Yeah.
Well, it's so easy to accept when it's a 9 to 5 that he's got to go. I'm so happy you brought that up because where the competition, where it happens for a lot is where they feel like they're competing is because they know you could be home. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares if you go in. Mm-hmm. Until you have no money, then they care. Yeah. But it's nobody cares. If you're not there, nobody's going to even notice it until there's no sales and there's no opportunities, right? And so where you're going in and you're spending that time and you're doing those hours, a lot of it is there's no immediate reward until all of a sudden there is, and there's a massive outcome that starts to come. And I think you can see that momentum, and that's the beautiful part of the building process.
Yeah.
So if you were to look at younger Jesse, and let's just say he was starting on this journey, what's the best advice you'd give to him?
As a slight joke that Malia would laugh about would be, just do what Malia says first time. There's quite a few times where I'll be like, oh, so-and-so told me this idea. And she's like, I told you that 6 months ago. I'm like, all right, you're
Just
right.
listen.
But on a realistic note, it would be just trust your gut. Because, I mean, you and I have talked about it when we talked about distilling your thoughts every day. You told me, hey, every day, pick a time, distill your thoughts. Honestly, I've done terrible at it. But the first couple of days when I was doing it, I sat down, we were in a potential legal battle with a company, and I had the thought, nobody's going to swim for me. But I knew why I started the company, and if I keep that confidence and I trust in myself, it all works out. I wish I could tell my younger self to stop worrying about tomorrow and stop worrying about the next month and the next year and just trust in what you did and the decision you made, because you made a full decision, and then just keep going. So I don't even know if that made sense.
Dude, tell me more about the nobody's going to swim for you. I thought that was an amazing example when you brought it up for the first time.
So I was sitting on a plane to Oklahoma because my in-laws live over there, and I was looking through a bunch of legal documents, and I won't get into the details of that, but I was sitting there and I got a notification on my phone of distill your today's thoughts into a learning. One sentence. And I was sitting there and I had a lawyer that was telling me one thing, and I was like, hey, I need help, right? I don't know what to do. I'm not a lawyer, right? And he's like, well, what do you think? And I was like, what do you mean? What do I think? I'm paying you, right? And he's honestly a great guy. I won't say his name because he's done a lot for me, but I asked so many people for their advice and so many different things, but nobody wants to make critical decisions that will affect you and your family. I don't care if it's a lawyer. I don't care if it's a parent. Nobody wants to be the one that leads you the wrong way. And so I had this thought of, I am drowning right now. Like, I literally was on the plane using my AirPods to be able to focus, like tearing up. And I was like, I am drowning. And I am the only person that's going to be able to swim. Nobody's coming. I am drowning right now, and either I'm going to swim and my family's going to make it, or they're not, right? And it was a huge thing to me of, you can't just sit by. If you have a cool idea, you have a dream you want to pursue, nobody will pull you across the water. Nobody's going to pick you up and carry you there. Like, I'm a big believer in faith. Like, I'm a very religious person, and I know God is with us and Christ is helping us. But I don't think he's going to pick us up and throw us across the finish line. And we just have to swim. I don't care if it's a doggy paddle or whatever it is. But when I had that thought, it was, I can do it. I can swim. I'll be fine. As soon as I realized nobody was coming, it gave me peace. Honestly, it brought me some clarity of, okay, it's now.
Yeah. The beautiful part of that is you finally have a firm foundation to work on. People are so afraid of rock bottom, but really it's the only sturdy place you have to stand on. And I think the quicker you can get to rock bottom, the quicker you can build something meaningful. We try to fill ourselves with fluff and hoping somebody comes and saves us. And so we sit there spending all of our energy trying not to drown rather than just trying to swim to shore and hoping someone swims for us or saves us. Like, a lot of times we look at God as this wishing well. And at the end of the day, if God came and took it away, he'd also take away the strength and the wisdom that would come from it. And he's not going to do that. He wants you to learn. He wants you to develop and fully trust you to be able to handle that as you did. And I think that's the beautiful part. And I think to broaden this into something that I think about all the time, like whenever I read a book or I listen to a podcast, I never just blindly listen to everything. I always run it through a filter as, do I think this would be useful for me? Because I never want to silence my own voice. I never want to silence my own intuition, my own gut instinct, and the uniqueness that I get to bring through the world. And I think that's where we start to create something beautiful. Because where miracles start to happen is where we amplify the uniqueness inside of ourselves. And I think where you start to swim for yourself, you also start to realize you're a whole lot stronger than you think you are. Your voice is a whole lot better than you think it is. And the wisdom that you're going to have on the other side of that is worth every single ounce of energy spent. Every single ounce of pain that came from that swim was worth it. Because now you get to bring something to the world that nobody else could. And that's where the power is right on the other side there. But often we discount it because we sit there waiting for someone to come and save us. And we also discount all of that learning and the freedom and the wisdom that comes on the other side as well.
Can I get religious on this podcast or no? Just a little bit?
Of course you can.
Just a little bit? You can edit it out if you want.
Dude,
But
I love religion.
it kind of just brings me to a thought. I served a mission in Moscow, right? I was in Russia. I was in the center of Moscow and just struggling. I think I was like 18, 19. I can't remember if I was 18 or 19 when this happened. I think I was 18. Longest I had been away from home was like a week, maybe 2, going with family to a lake house. And the thought that comes to my mind is like what you're talking about, like the experiences that we have. I was sitting there and I read a poem that I found from somebody else that lived in the apartment before. And it was talking about somebody with a backpack and a helmet. And he's like praying to God. And he's like, take this backpack, please. My shoulders are hurting. Take my helmet. My head hurts. It's killing. Take my feet are killing and my shoes are giving me blisters. And then it's God, it's Christ responding, saying, hey, my head hurt with the crown. My hands were killing with the thorns or with the nails, and my feet, and he just goes into all the detail. And I think if God just came in, I think he does have the power to remove all of this, to take all the pain, all the suffering. I think he had the power to make it so my dad didn't pass away. I'm confident. I knew he could do it with a snap of a finger or a blink of an eye, but he didn't for a reason. And I think we become people like what you talked about that will change the world, change the globe. I don't think we'll do that by sitting in waiting for people to save us. I think we'll do it by going through it, having our shoulders kill, and learning from something, that post-traumatic growth and pre-ecstatic growth that you and I have talked about, right? And I think it's such a cool thing to learn. Talking about standing on the shoulders of giants like God, Jesus Christ. I mean, what a cool shoulder to be on. So,
well, imagine had they took it away. Like, look what came on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
If they took away the crown, if you take away the cross, if you take away the Garden of Gethsemane, the entire atonement, God doesn't get resurrected. The power to save the world and allow us the opportunity to be resurrected is also gone.
Mm-hmm.
The trees that touch heaven also have the roots that touch hell. And if you're unwilling to go to hell, you also are unable to experience heaven. And I think part of where you gain a relationship with both sides of that is where you find a lot of power and strength.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse, this has been awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I'm grateful you've come on the podcast. I think there's been so many good things for people to learn from. So just to finish, if you were to leave everybody with one thought that you feel like would be the most powerful thing to make a difference in their life, what advice would you give to them?
That's kind of something I've hinted at. Make sure everything you do is intentional. Because people are going to take it intentional either way. So if you do it intentionally, your family's going to understand it. You're going to understand it. Put a little bit of thought into it. And when we do things and we're intentional with our time and with our effort, with our energy, I don't think you'll look back and regret a thing.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah,
if you guys want to reach out to him, if you're an executive, listen to the podcast, reach out to him. Otherwise, Jesse's on Instagram, Jesse Gale. You can reach out to him, ask him any questions. And we appreciate you guys and we appreciate you. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, bro.